Open Instagram and you'll find 1,000 people who can diagram your brain for you. The amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, the vagus nerve, color-coded, labeled, explained in 60 seconds flat. And here's the thing. I'm a certified brain health professional, and I almost never do that. Not because the science isn't real. It is, and it's breathtaking. But because in 15 years of coaching, I have never once watched someone change their life because they memorized a brain diagram or even learned about the brain. What changes people is repetition, the practice, learning the skills, doing the same thing over and over until the nervous system learns a new default. So today, I want to make the case that you do not need to understand your brain to change it. And I think by the end of this episode, that's going to feel like the most freeing thing you've heard all week.
Welcome to Unafraid Living. I'm Kim. I'm the one asking the questions, but I'm also making sure that we're getting the real answers.
And I'm Coach Suzette, brain health professional, life coach, and your biggest cheerleader for the life you actually want. Together, we're going to quiet the fear and turn up the courage.
Do you know your fear pattern?
Most people don't, but when you do, you start to understand why you overthink, why certain conversations feel impossible, and why you shut down when things get hard.
Well, we have a free 3-minute quiz that tells you exactly which pattern is running your life. And then we send you personalized tools based on your results.
It's the starting point for everything we talk about here.
Take it at unafraidliving.com/quiz. And the link is also in the show notes. Welcome back to Unafraid Living. I am Kim, and I'm here with Coach Suzette. And Suzette, I'd have to say that opener was kind of bold, especially coming from a brain coach.
Well, okay, I'll own that. I'm going to tell you that learning about your brain and changing your brain are two very, very different things. And most of us have been doing a lot more of the first one.
Okay, so you're saying we've been learning too much about the brain and not enough about how to change it.
The second part is for sure true.
Okay.
The first part, I'm not so sure, because learning about the brain, if that's your interest, if you really want to understand the brain and how it works, awesome, go for it, learn it. It's just a really fascinating study. What I am trying to say is learning about the brain isn't the same thing as changing your brain. Just like someone who has heart trouble, they don't need to learn all about how their heart functions. They need to change their lifestyle. They need to get out and be more active. They need to change their diet, right? But the heart doctor's not educating them in all the ways that everything works together, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is, yes, learning about it can be helpful, but it isn't what changes your life.
Okay, so you get the question a lot. Why don't you teach more neuroscience? And this is why.
This is why. It doesn't change your life. And I am all about, my first love was life coaching. And I love to see the transformation in people that happened even before I knew much about the brain.
Right. Because you were a coach before you were a brain specialist.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What brought you to the thought that people don't need to know their brain perfectly in order to change it?
I think just watching people and seeing how a lot of people know all about their brain. They can come to me and tell me all about their brain. But then when you get to coaching them to how to change their life, it's like it goes in one ear and out the other. So it made me start to wonder, how much good is this really doing people?
I get that, because you could know about any part of your body and not know how to change something about it.
Mm-hmm. So I think that the insight here is that transformation and information are two different things.
Okay. Yes. Information and transformation are two different things. Okay. I get that. I totally get that. So knowing the name of the wave doesn't teach you how to swim.
That's exactly right.
But you can't get away with zero science. As you know, in this day and age, you are a brain coach, brain health coach. Give us your tour, like a fast tour of the brain.
Well, I probably could get away with it with clients, but not on a podcast.
Right.
All right. So fast version. Here's what I actually want you to walk away with and knowing. And the thing is you've probably heard it a million times already, is that the amygdala is your brain's alarm system. It scans for threats. It fires faster than a thought, right? You have a feeling and it fires quickly. So you need to understand that the amygdala actually does way more than just that. I'm not going to try to tell you any more of that right now, but every part of the brain that we talk about, I'm giving you this little synopsis, the part that you need to know, but it's not the only thing it does. Okay. So that's the amygdala part. You already knew it, right? Your amygdala is your
alarm system.
That's right. It tells you when to
run or fight.
And sometimes people freeze, right? They
Right.
get paralyzed. But your amygdala is telling you, beep, 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 be careful, you know? So what do you do when that alarm goes off? Well, that's the part that matters to me, is we could actually coach someone without ever saying the word amygdala. I could coach a child to understand what the feelings are and how then to address those feelings of fear and choose different thoughts with the prefrontal cortex to change the action and how they move forward with life.
Okay, so that's the next one, prefrontal cortex.
Yes, the prefrontal cortex. A lot of people describe it as the wise adult in the room because it's the part that does the planning, the perspective, the choosing response over reaction. And that's not a bad name for it, the wise adult in the room. I kind of like that. But it is not the only thing it does. This is an interesting thing, is that it also is the part of your brain that allows you to imagine.
Ooh,
And we don't ever talk about that, right?
Right.
But it brings things together and helps you be able to make wise choices and respond in ways differently than if you were just responding due to your amygdala sounding off.
So it kind of like takes in the alarm from the amygdala and then it takes over and helps you decide. Okay.
And here's the thing. This is one piece that isn't talked about very much. And the prefrontal cortex, because you think about it as being the planning, the CEO of your brain, many people equate this to like your IQ.
Oh.
It has nothing to do with your, like that type of intelligence. It's more like emotional intelligence, or maybe even more like common sense.
Oh, okay.
So I wouldn't I mean, none of those are actually great descriptions, but it's a better description than thinking that it's only for planning, perspective, and choosing your response over reaction. It does all those things, but it does so much more.
That's so fascinating to me, but we're not getting into any more of it.
No, not today.
Okay, what's next?
The vagus nerve. One sentence here. Long nerve connecting the brain to the body. It's the big part of how you settle down after stress.
I've seen so much of this on everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. And people are doing all kinds of things like humming and cold plunging and all of this stuff.
Right.
I mean, does it work? Is it real?
Oh, some of it genuinely does help. Again, you don't have to know the anatomy. You can just do the cold plunge, right?
Right.
It calms you down. Even a slow exhale that's longer than your inhale tells the body that the danger has passed. And that's all you need to know. It's just you need to know what to do, and it changes what's inside you so that you can then have your prefrontal cortex help you. So really, I think a better order that we could have done this in would be amygdala, vagus nerve, and then the prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
They all work so quickly and hand in hand, and it's not an exact science like that. They don't necessarily, it's not going to always fall like that, but it's a better order than the other way around.
Okay. All right. What's next?
The brain-heart connection, and this is fascinating. It's a big surprise, I think, to most people that the heart sends signals to the brain not just the other way around. And actually, it sends a lot more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So it's talking to the brain, telling the brain, hey, this is going on, and then the brain responds.
That's craziness.
Isn't it?
That's not what we learn in high school biology.
It is not. You're right. But we learn things all the time. More and more,
Yes.
We're getting to know our bodies because of science. And it's really cool.
It really is. Okay, so what about, we can go back to heart math here. I know there's the brain-heart connection. And when you're breathing and you're focusing on your heart, what's going on there?
You're calming down your emotions. So your emotions radiate from your heart. You've got an electrical field around your heart. And okay, this is not something you need to know, but
But it's fun to know.
This is fun to know. And I think this is a little bit more useful than some of the other things that people talk about with the brain.
Okay.
Because this has to do with your sphere of influence. And you know how we talk about get rid of toxic people in your life, which I'm not always a fan of.
Okay.
I think that sometimes we need to learn to live with toxic people in our life. I mean, especially when it's family, close family members, right? I'm not going to divorce my son because he's sometimes toxic. I mean, that's not true of either one of my sons. But I was trying to think of who, would be somebody like, no, I'm not doing that. So what happens is our emotions radiate from our heart, and this electrical field radiates out from us up to about 6 feet. And so people literally feel your mood. People say they feel your energy, which is true. They do feel your energy field. It is an electromagnetic field, but it is because it is influenced. You feel it like it's an upper or a downer. And they're either renewing or depleting emotions. One way builds the room up and the other way takes it down. A genuine feeling of appreciation. So if you know that you're feeling down and you want to change your electromagnetic field, maybe you know that you're going into a situation where you want to be the light. You want to lift people up. You don't want to bring people down. Well, it's really easy to do. We just have to get ourselves in a calm, still state and focus on things that we're grateful for. And it literally, I know that just sounds so simple. It's like one of those things that you asked about a few minutes ago, like, yes, cold plunges actually do help. Well, gratitude, it actually does change what's going on inside your body. And that makes a difference as to how everybody feels when they're around you.
Okay, so I want to push a little bit on this. Isn't it a little bit convenient to say the details don't matter and you letting people just be ignorant of the science of it?
I don't necessarily think that's my job. So if they want to go to a university, I'm not a doctor. I shouldn't be the one educating you on how the body works, right? That's not who I am. I'm not a professor. I'm a coach and I help you to have a better life. So I don't think that it's my job to do that. I don't see myself there. But I also think that there is a benefit for keeping the science light. And here's a couple of reasons. The first is the integrity piece that I just talked about. I just want you to know that I took 90 hours of brain health training or becoming a brain health professional. I went through the heavier version of brain health training. So there's a brain health professional certification that I got, and it was pretty heavy. Because I was in the room, I say room, it was all virtual, but there were these researchers and scientists that were PhDs, and they were doing all this doctoral stuff and writing their thesis and talking about things completely over my head for parts of the thing. I mean, I passed, but I can't say I understood every single thing. So integrity is super important to me. I want to stay in my lane. So I keep the science light for that reason. And the second reason is that nobody has the certainty. So there's everybody talking about this stuff. like they know, like they have all the answers. But just like you said a few minutes ago, that's not what we were taught in high school.
Right.
So nobody really knows all of the science behind any of it. Even things like how the brain regenerates. Because, if you lose a piece of your brain because of an injury, but then you actually learn to walk again. Well, did that part of your brain come back? It didn't. What we can't understand how this really works, what we do know is that the adjacent pieces of the brain fill in the gaps where that injured part was. So it's dead, it's gone. And so the adjacent parts of the brain, it doesn't really matter which pieces, they fill in the gaps and they take over whatever was supposed to be happening there. So your ability to walk is dead. It's gone because it was injured and it's no longer there. But whatever's right next to it fills in the gaps. Literally, you can see it. And
Crazy.
Yeah. And so we didn't know this before, but we know this now. And we're just learning more and more all the time. So I think keeping the science a little looser, I think, is a good way to say it. And honestly, I kind of feel that way about life.
Right.
Is we need to hold things a little more loosely and stop being so dogmatic about things that we are so certain are true.
So becoming an expert or learning so much about your brain and memorizing it, that's kind of like a trap.
It can be. It certainly can be. Knowledge can quietly become a place to hide from the actual work of transformation. I've seen it. Someone knows their attachment style or their Enneagram or their nervous system response, and they use that knowledge to explain why they can't change. It's just the way they are.
There was a time when I got into all of that, my personality, and you can use it as a crutch or an excuse for anything, really.
You really can. I mean, literally, even things that are true, like ADD and ADHD. I think it's wonderful to use tools for what they're meant for, but you're right. We begin to use them as crutches and excuses, which that just infuriates me.
I imagine it does.
Especially because I am ADHD and I never was allowed to use it for an excuse because I didn't know.
Right.
And
for
so
a long time, right?
I think I was in late 50s before I knew.
Wow.
And, that's a long life to live.
It really is.
And nobody ever, I didn't have excuses for why I couldn't do well in school. I had to work a little harder than my brother. He could concentrate for hours on the same thing. And my mind was off. I did okay. I learned to compensate. I made my own way. And we can all do that. We all have the ability. Now, I will say it's a whole lot easier if you have the right tools. I was gifted some really great tools because I had good parents that taught me.
That is a little bit about the brain. That's your sciencey part. That's what you're going to give us. So now we're not going to do any more of that, but what are you going to tell us now?
About rewiring. So rewiring is almost embarrassingly simple, which this probably isn't going to go viral because of it. But
hey, it could. Who knows?
You never know. You never know. But it's noticing, it's pausing, it's breathing, it's asking yourself the questions. What's really going on inside me right now? And I'm not saying, oh, my amygdala is doing this,
right,
or my prefrontal cortex isn't working quite right. That's not what I'm talking about here. What's really going on inside me? That question is about what's triggering me to have this response that is anger. When honestly, nobody else around the room is angry, but I'm feeling angry. What is that? And so getting to know yourself by asking yourself the questions, knowing yourself and responding with your prefrontal cortex to make better decisions, to act differently. And when you do, you start to feel differently.
That's in itself really fascinating too.
And everyone knows that we behave based on our emotions.
Yeah, we
right?
do. And it's hard to not, especially if you don't have the tools and you haven't practiced or tried to rewire anything. You're just going by the seat of your pants and whatever comes up, comes up.
Right. And then sometimes your prefrontal cortex takes over and says, No, these emotions are not the ones that are going to help you. And so you are able to shift, but it's a process.
It
to
is
shift.
a process. Yeah. Don't we know it? Mm-hmm. So the brain doesn't change because we know what the brain is and what it involves and the names of every piece of it is.
Yeah, it doesn't change because of a great lecture. It changes because you practice a new response over and over again until it becomes your default response.
So that's like with anything in life.
It is.
Practice.
Mm-hmm. Practice. And you know what that's called? Do you remember?
Neuroplasticity.
That is right. Neuroplasticity.
I've got it.
It changes. It reshapes, rewires your brain. That's the gift, is neuroplasticity. Your brain is like moldable, soft play-doh. It's kind of buttery soft. It moves and changes. And the more that you do the same thing over and over again, the more you shape your brain into what you want it to be.
Or maybe what you don't want it to be.
Yes, exactly. That is very true. So it's repetition, not information, that changes it.
All right. So I don't have to feel guilty about not knowing what the amygdala does or what it's for.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You don't. You can forget all of it, but if you keep the practices, you're in good shape.
Okay. All right. It's time for you to give us one thing.
One thing to take away this week?
Yes.
Okay. The next time you feel something, like maybe that flush where you're embarrassed, or defensiveness, worry, the urge to shut down or react in a way that you know is not going to be good for you, don't reach for an explanation of what your brain is doing. Don't Google it or try to name it. Just do this. Do you hear me breathing? One slow breath. And I want you to exhale longer than you inhale. Just slow your breathing down. Take several if you can. But even if it's only one, that's okay. Because one breath can change things. One long, slow breath. And then ask yourself one question. What do I actually need right now? And you've already said, what do I need to feel safe? That could be the question you need to ask yourself. I think very often people don't equate that with their emotional needs, but it's emotionally too. So you might want to add in that, because when you just ask yourself, what do I need to feel safe? Sometimes we're only thinking about physical safety. Right? That's where our brain goes. So I think adding in physical or emotional safety is a really good idea. So not what's wrong with me, not why do I always do this? Why do I always react like this? Just what do I need right now to feel safe physically and emotionally?
You don't diagnose yourself. Mm-mm. You're not diagramming anything.
No diagnosing, no diagramming, just breathing and asking yourself the honest question. So if you can do that, and one breath is good, but like I said, more is better.
Okay.
Do that 10 times this week and you'll have done more rewiring of your brain than scrolling about brain facts.
Got to bring it back to that, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, while we're at it, why don't you just bring us home? And what's one thing that you want people to know deeply this week?
Deeply. I've said it a whole bunch already, but you don't have to understand how your brain works to change your life. The science is beautiful, and I will always honor it, but it was never the point. The point is what you do with your body, your breath, your attention, what you do over and over again is what changes you and helps you to live in a way that is softer and happier. And that's a skill every single one of us can practice, starting with the very next breath.
If something landed for you today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. That's how we grow this community.
And when you're ready to take the next step, the Unafraid course is waiting for you at unafraidcourse.com. I'd love to coach you through it.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And don't forget to check the show notes. And remember, your brain is listening.
So fear less, keep calm, live more, and listen on.